Corporate communications continue to evolve, driven very often by the technologies that we use to deliver our messaging. Today, we're going to talk about maybe what the future of digital signage in corporate communications might look at. And to help me with that, I am speaking with Jason Cain. He is the region manager for South Central in the United States. And he's joining me on the podcast today. Thanks for talking to me, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Dirk, for having me.
Absolutely. And of course, thank you everybody out there for listening to this episode of the podcast, Digital Signage Done Right. Don't forget that you can subscribe and you can follow along with a transcript on the Visix website under Resources and Podcasts. Whether you're using digital signage or not, our podcast gives you practical tips for communications and content to better engage your audience. I'm Derek DeWitt. Welcome to Digital Signage Done Right. In order to understand what the future might hold, it's often useful to kind of look at the past. So let's kind of go over like a little, thumbnail history of corporate communications using digital signage.
Yeah, sure. So, digital signage has been used in corporate communications for many years. Mainly, static displays with limited capabilities. The displays were mainly used for basic information, primarily HR announcements and event schedules. However, lately, the rise of digital age and advancements in technologies have enabled digital signage to become a much more powerful tool for corporate communication. Both the hardware and the software have evolved, as have the design tools to create content. External systems that either feed into digital signage systems or can display digital signage messages have also evolved.
Yeah, event schedules, as we know, number one thing. Obviously, a lot of HR announcements, and now the software keeps getting more interesting. Touchscreens and interactivity have become almost de rigueur, honestly. And now, of course, we're seeing AI being used for content creation, images, even text, things like this. And things are just moving at a pace. Like I was speaking to Brian Galante, who's the head of Dimension PR not long ago, and he said, in his experience, he can't think of a technology that has come up faster, certainly in this space, than AI. 2 years ago, nobody talked about it outside of science fiction films, and now everybody's talking about it, So things are certainly changing and might change quite rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the future that I think the Jetsons had promised us. So I'm very excited for us to finally get to that stage.
I can't wait for a robot maid and a flying car. Actually, the way that most people drive, I don't want flying cars. I think that just sounds like death from above.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you can't drive on a flat surface, how in the world would they take that to the air?
Yeah, adding more dimensions is not going to help.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been in this field for a long time, so you've got your kind of finger on the pulse. What are some of the things you see for the future of corporate digital signage? I'm thinking specifically sort of emerging transit technology that are really shaping the future of this.
Yeah, I think one of the most popular trends is data-driven content optimization. Data integration, visualization. It's already popular on digital signs, but I think we're going to see that to continue to grow more and more.
Yeah, do you think it'll be like more sources, or how is it going to get bigger?
Yeah, I think that, we'll see a lot more sources being pulled in and maybe different ways to show the data that you can choose from right in a CMS.
Yeah, that would be nice. Kind of like in Excel, you choose what kind of chart you want to show or something like that. I would imagine analytics would probably play a big part in this.
Oh, absolutely. Companies will start to use data analytics more and more to continually perfect their digital signage content. And a CMS could measure the success of a message and maybe change that chart type you choose to see if it works better, sort of a, A and B testing.
Right. Or heck, that might even be automatic. It's just pulling in the data. Doesn't really matter. It matters obviously to a certain extent what kind of chart you're using, but it might be able to in the future be smart enough to say, you know what, actually, I'm noticing that people aren't looking at this, so I'm going to change it to this, instead of a pie chart, a bar graph or something.
Oh, yeah.
A buzzword, of course, we hear a lot of these days is IoT, or the Internet of Things. Again, briefly, for those that are going, wait, what is that? It's a network of connected devices that communicate with one another and exchange data. And they kind of do it without human prompting. In the digital signage world, certainly I think that could make all that data sharing we're talking about a lot easier.
A lot of this is currently talked about in the retail space. So you can serve up a certain ad when, when a sensor triggers, or do a more targeted campaign based on, different metrics. But what I really think is going to happen is we're going to see corporate digital signage begin to integrate more with IoT sensors and devices as well.
Yeah, yeah. Again, so people know, we've talked about this at length in previous episodes, but so these sensors can do things like sense whether or not someone's standing in front of the screen, maybe get some demographic information about that person. It's a man, it's a woman, it's, older, younger, what have you, what the weather is, traffic patterns maybe as well, cars going by in the background, or maybe it's tied into an inventory system. So it all just kind of has access to all of this data, some of it that it's picking up right there at the screen, some of it it's getting from other sources, and then it's kind of just deciding what is the most optimal thing to show at that particular moment, or what's the most relevant, or what's the most important. I think in a corporate setting, I think that kind of up to the minuteness is quite exciting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all about enhancing contextual relevance and effectiveness. And the more that you can do that, the more appealing it is, to the audience.
That's the goal. I think now is we want to be, we spent money on this system and we put it all over the place, and we want it to be as effective as humanly possible.
Yeah, exactly. The future is now. The days of just showing the same content over and over and over again on a screen, you lose the audience, because there's this little thing called a smartphone, and there's social media, and there's all these distractions. So relevant, real-time data-driven content is always going to be your biggest advantage, especially in the corporate setting.
Yeah, I always say that any source, whether it's a digital sign or it's a website or my news feed or whatever, if you can answer a question either before I've asked it to myself or very quickly after I've asked it, wow, you've really done your job. So, that's amazing to me. Now, obviously, with this kind of really astonishing access to an automated access to information and data sources, we're going to see the trend that we see online and on our smartphones really starting to take off, I think, in digital signage. We're going to see more personalized and more targeted content. Again, we've talked about this in a previous episode about internal communications trends, but this is a big goal for creating more engaging content. If it's not just targeted to people like me, but to me, well, obviously, I'm going to be engaged with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the content tools and ideas are going to just continue to evolve in the future, so that you get that more enhanced, content that makes it truly feel like, hey, is this talking just to me?
Right. Did it just read my mind?
Yeah, did this just read my mind, or, what is happening here? Again, like I mentioned before, that's the key to engaging and keeping it very fresh and relevant and current, is what's going to get someone to say, wait a minute, this is real life, real time right now.
Yeah. And I think obviously analytics, which we mentioned before, are going to be a key part to this. Obviously specific employee groups and stuff, but it'll really be able to parse to the kind of person, their role in the company, the location that particular sign is in, people's interests and so on. And as the machines, let's say, and the digital signage managers kind of work in tandem, we're going to see the corporate communicators really being able to adjust their approach sort of on the fly almost, and really just drill right in and target exactly the people they need to for a specific message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the immediate future is just getting those analytics in place. Once you have those analytics in place, then it makes this all come together seamlessly, so that you can show the relevant content that you need to show. I just think that currently a lot of companies just don't have the data yet to create those profiles.
Or they have the data, but they don't. They haven't integrated their digital signage into it. I'm one of those people that lives by the philosophy of never do today something you can put off till next week. There's a sign up deadline for benefits or for something, with the company. And 90% of the people have signed up. I'm the guy who's, gonna maybe forget because I'm probably going to wait until the last day or two to get around to it. And I kind of have this vision in my head almost of like, as I walk by the digital sign, it goes, "Oh, that's Derek," and he hasn't signed up yet. So it quickly grabs the, "Hey, don't forget to sign up for this thing. Deadline's tomorrow" message, which it doesn't show you because you're good and you have already signed up. You don't need to see it, but I do need to see it, so it sends it to me.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. I mean, for you, it could do just that. It could say, hey, you need to sign up. And for me, it could say, thank you for signing up.
Right. Yeah, exactly so. Now, of course, we're also seeing more sort of complicated messages out there, more visual multimedia stuff going on. Video, people keep talking about video. Zoomers love it. Millennials love it. Video is the way to go. We hear this all the time now, and it doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon. Video is still very much at the forefront of modern communications.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all the research shows that visuals are more engaging, memorable, effective, and conveying, complex information and messages to employees.
Yeah. And I wonder if we're going to find more and more clever ways to sort of animate or make the content dynamic, even a picture, like we've talked about the Ken Burns effect. We just kind of have it slowly drift across the, the screen. But there may be other ways. There may be clever ways soon where it's easy and you don't have to have a design degree to be able to do it. Where, I don't know, here's a picture of a cat and the cat's eyes suddenly go boing and pop up really big, or, something like that makes you go, "I'm sorry, did his eyes explode at me for a second?" The technology is going to enable people to unlock and unleash their creativity more too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the future of corporate digital signage is going to be to fully focus on animated and dynamic content.
I think another thing we're going to see as things get more personalized, like you said, everybody's walking around with a smartphone, is we're going to see more mobile integration. Maybe. Do you think that this is something that's going to start happening more and more?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That has already started post COVID, especially in the now very normal hybrid workplace. Our software can already do this. You can just put a message on a playlist and put it on a web page so people can view it on their phone. What used to be a very abnormal environment of the hybrid workplace, in my opinion, now that's more normal than an actual going to work 5 days a week at an actual location. Yeah, I think that time has passed for most. Short of fire, ambulance, police jobs, I think that if you have to actually show up somewhere every day, 5 days a week, good luck filling some of those positions.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it makes you feel like they don't trust you, "Oh, you won't work. Well, then fire me." If I don't work, if I'm not going to work, I'm not going to work while I'm physically here either. That's just how that goes. Now, like you said, you can put stuff up on a web page, so obviously people can view it on their phone. One way that's really starting to take off in the States, again, COVID kind of really accelerated the adoption of this, is QR codes. People scan it, boom, there it is, takes them to a web page or a PDF or whatever. The Visix software also pairs with like Microsoft Teams too, doesn't it?
That is correct. Yeah, you can deliver content via Microsoft Teams app. In fact, at InfoComm this past year, we showed the digital signage using Microsoft Teams, and we then, even while showing digital signage on Microsoft Teams, started sending random messages to Lisa Kelly, who was back in the office, and she couldn't figure out who it was coming from. So you can do a lot. You can do digital signage. You can play pranks on your fellow employees. It's the future is now.
Pranksters rejoice.
That's right.
And, obviously for a long time, I think the software has been able to integrate, especially with wayfinding, with SMSs, like you can get turn-by-turn directions sent right to your phone. It's all about, hey, pay attention, so people engage with it.
Yeah, exactly. You can walk up, you can scan a QR code. You could actually just type in your phone number, and then we'll send you the turn-by-turn directions so that you can navigate to where you're going. Mobile is the thing.
Because of that, I think that the sort of on-site experience needs to kind of, I don't know, like jazz it up a little bit. Obviously we've seen video walls in the past, but I think we're seeing more different kinds of multi-screen experiences now in some locations.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it used to be you would see video walls in large venues like hotels and sports arenas, but now, your corporate offices are doing the exact same thing because, as we mentioned before, it's all about getting people to look up from their phone and look up at what you're presenting to them.
And I think a lot of the technology is making video walls just better now. Before it was you're literally sticking up a bunch of flat screen TVs with these kind of thick bezels, so you have to work around the bezels when you're designing and stuff, and that's all starting to go away.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the definition of what used to be considered a video wall is constantly changing. You have, bezel-less displays, micro tiles, so the images can be seamless. It's just a really great way to present cohesive storytelling and offer more immersive environments.
And speaking of immersion, obviously interactivity. That's a great way to know that people are engaged with your signage and with your messaging because they're physically touching the screen and they're using it or they're interacting with it in some way, like we said, QR code, or maybe you've got gesture control or voice control or whatever. But interaction is I don't think it's just that it's becoming more and more popular. It's becoming expected by the audience. As digital signs get into more and more public and shared spaces, people just kind of expect it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, interactive displays are just getting so popular, especially for corporate communications. And one of the things that was most eye-opening to me, because again, it's as you said, it's just expected, and it's kind of interesting to me. This was years ago, but we were at a show. It was Infocom actually, and we had a 65-inch display with a interactive wayfinding project on it. And the most common thing that people would do when they walked up to it is try to enlarge the display like you would your phone. Now, this is a 65-inch display that you're standing inches away from. I was just baffled because I'm like, so let me get this straight. We've got a map on a 65-inch display, and just out of pure habit and expecting it, they're trying to make it bigger. And they could, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean maybe that's just their way to test if it's interactive. Like, can I do this? Oh, I can. That's very exciting. And of course, this year Visix unveiled sort of this kind of cool AI moderated gesture control, so you don't even have to touch the screen at all.
Yeah, very cool. It was, just another way to make communications more immersive and focus on the individual user's experience. When you think back COVID and post-COVID, it was kind of a race to what do you do on an interactive display to make it germ-free, we'll call it. So it's like, well, do you do a protective screen or do you do voice activated controls or what do you do? And so, of course, at Infocom, we showed off this really cool technology where it's just gesture controls. You literally just use your finger like you're clicking a mouse, which is a normal behavior that everyone is used to. But instead of touching something, you clicked the mouse in the air and it took you to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the year before we showed voice activation, which is very cool too. But you think corporate settings, and sometimes they can be loud, or sometimes it can be in a busy area, and so the voice controls, could be compromised with that type of scenario. But now you're using gestures, so it's the future is now. I'll say it again.
Yeah, that's absolutely so. And obviously, for people with accessibility issues, it's just better for them, as well. And everybody always in a corporate setting or what have you, anything that it deals with employees or the public, you got to follow those ADA guidelines. And I'm pretty sure ADA is going to come along one of these days and start looking at some of the new innovations in technology and start making rules for those as well.
Yeah, absolutely, they will. It's always been consistent that way.
Now, of course, another thing that people have been talking about for ages in the digital space is cloud, 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 cloud. Everything's moving towards the cloud. We said this a few years ago, but now it really is true. Like everything is moving towards the cloud.
There's still a limited, few places, take your government or some tech companies that are worried about security. But overall, more and more companies, are moving to the cloud. One, it makes just perfect financial sense. It's a subscription versus, an initial outlay of cash. And it also saves them, quite honestly, from having to take care of software updates and maintenance. It's all handled. It's ready to go when you want it to go. It's always updated, and you don't have to waste, IT folks' time doing something else.
And you don't need that hardware sitting around either. So it's still using hardware and electricity, but it's using less in some regards. And so in that way, you can consider it to be more sustainable.
I would say 5 years ago-ish, it was more of a 98% perpetual, 2% hosted, and those numbers have drastically changed. I don't want to say that it's 98% hosted, 2% perpetual, but it's probably 80/20 hosted. And like I said, there's are a few outliers, government tech companies worried about security, but overall, everything's in the cloud.
It's a lot less work. You don't have to make the things. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to install them. You don't have to. I know that there are, energy efficient displays and even servers that use recyclable materials, but you just don't have to deal with any of that. That's literally someone else's problem.
That's right. That's exactly it.
And of course, e-paper has really taken off in the digital signage space lately. I know the EPS signs are kind of like going like hotcakes. This is the e-ink technology that we all first encountered probably with a Kindle or similar reading device. But why not? They're easy to use. They're super low power, right?
The great thing about e-paper signs is that unless they're receiving an update, they don't even use power. So, they're battery operated. And once the sign has been updated, it no longer needs power. So the typical battery, they say 3 years or 10,000 updates. I lean more towards the 10,000 updates, just by pure math. If you think about it, there's 365 days in a year. And are you really going to update it 365 days? Don't know, but 10,000 updates is a lot. And I am personally, as is our company, seeing that more and more, with the hybrid workplace and the office hoteling, people are using it literally just to have a name and a room number on there. So, John Doe, room 101. Well, once you put John Doe, room 101, until John retires or dies, you no longer are using power at all.
Yeah, and of course, that makes me think of a use that Visix has come up with for these very small, super lightweight, easy to mount anywhere kind of EPS signs and e-paper signs, which is putting a QR code on there and then integrating it with an augmented reality product. Augmented reality is when you're using, usually it's your phone or tablet, it's through your camera. So there are virtual elements on the screen overlaid over the actual real world that your camera is picking up. And so you're kind of getting a combination of those two things. And obviously, this is going to be more and more in the future.
Oh, absolutely. With our Coro Space booking platform, when you talk about sustainability, it's literally a QR code that, as you mentioned, could be on a smaller EPS sign. It could be on a piece of paper. It could be anything that you want, but we're using the augmented reality that's already available in smartphones. So once you scan the QR code, you can actually see what does the room look like. You can book that room. You can search for other rooms. We were obviously just in Las Vegas, and I had multiple people that came up to me. This isn't corporate, but you'll see the similarity. And Vegas is known for their swimming pools. And I guess it's I don't like the heat, so I don't go to the pool, but I guess it's a big battle to try to save a chair or get a chair when you're poolside. And so Koros is the perfect fit. You put a QR code on a chair, on a lounger, on a day bed, and someone walks up with their phone, they can book it, and away they go.
There you go. No more having to leave a wet towel behind to claim it as your own. It's already in the system.
Yeah, that is frowned upon at Vegas pools and on cruise ships. I've seen some interesting fights and videos over what towels being used to claim space.
Now, obviously, the other big buzzword is AI. As I said, the gesture control interface utilizes AI as a sort of intermediary manager. We're seeing it show up so fast and in so many things. Brian Galante said, obviously, content creation is somewhere we're going to see it too. And he thinks it's also going to start being used for analytics and data integration as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. AI is making its way into digital signage in a big way. Just like you said, through data collection, content publishing, analytics. I think currently is where you see most AI in content management systems is in your analytics.
Yeah, I especially think of right now until the sign can recognize that's Derek DeWitt. You know, born on December 5th, this year, this place, this this geographical location, and identify me as a specific individual out of the billions on Earth. We create what we call personas for different segments of our audience. I think AI is kind of just perfect for that.
You can use AI powered digital signage, in conjunction with the IoT sensors we were just talking about. And you can, like you said, you can personalize message on screens, based on factors like audience demographics, preferences.
Yes. Now, of course, right now there are more and more AIs are showing up on the field and in the market, and it's going to be quite interesting in the next couple of years to see what happens with that cage match. Because I think it's quite clear a lot of them are not going to survive, and so it's going to be interesting to see which ones are still around in 5 years and how they've either swallowed up their competition or bested their competition, and what they've started to integrate with. Is it just going to be image and audio creation, or are we going to see it actually getting incorporated into content management software? You can already get them to write code. Maybe it'll write its own code. It'll come up with innovations all by itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that you said it perfectly when you said there's going to be a lot of change, and it's just going to see how it all shakes out. The big best players are left, and how does that all integrate into a system? Truly integrate into a system.
But right now, the state of the art as we know it is prompt writing, which is what gets the AI to do what you want it to do. And that is a skill. I know there's been a lot of talk about people, getting $100,000 a year jobs and more for being prompt writing engineers, which I do wonder about the validity of those news stories. But it is a very particular skill, and it's worth looking into. It's not quite as straightforward as people might think. Not yet, anyway.
Definitely not yet. Maybe could it be? Sure, but only time will tell. It's all still evolving and changing, and we will see.
Yes, we will indeed. I want to go back to something you said earlier about how there are still some holdouts, let's call them, or organizations that don't feel comfortable going to cloud yet, like government facilities and maybe some tech companies and things like this, because they're worried about security. And yet, I wonder if security is the same problem it used to be. One of the arguments against the hybrid workplace pre-pandemic was, well, it's insecure, and yet we now see that that's just actually not true.
So security is, obviously still a really big concern, especially for larger companies that have offices across the country and around the world. I think that beyond the standard firewalls and antivirus apps, future digital signage systems, they'll have to incorporate, more of an advanced security measures to protect against cyber threats and unauthorized access. We also have to think about content manipulation. For example, if your AI is breached and told to create something inappropriate, what does that look like?
Right. Or, whatever. It changes the deadline for that benefits enrollment or whatever. I mean, that could have huge ramifications, especially if you're using an outside party.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, in, old school and even today's society, we have security in place. It's not security, but it's kind of a fail-safe because, you can have a content creator be a high school student or a college student or whatever, but you don't allow them to publish what they created. They create the content, and then it has to be approved by somebody that is allowed to approve the content. That's how you stop a high school student from saying, that they're in love with, Billie Jean or, school sucks or whatever. So same thing with AI. Now it's not even, Johnny playing a joke. It's AI saying,
Johnny married a horse.
yeah, exactly, or whatever. So yeah, you're definitely going to have, some sort of way to prevent content manipulation.
Yeah, and I think AI, again, because it can operate so quickly, it operates at so many cycles a second, much faster than we do. It seems like it's going to be also a natural pairing with sort of creating more reliable systems and making sure that everybody's data remains has good integrity.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Hackers and threats are just going to continue to get more sophisticated. I mean, as technology gets more sophisticated, so do the hackers. So, we'll definitely have to expand the ways we ensure the data integrity and system reliability.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so that's a look at some of the emerging trends and technologies that are shaping the future of corporate digital signage today. Check this space a year from now, and who knows what will have come along. As we said, AI showed up really just a year ago, and now it's everywhere. AR has been around for a long time. That's augmented reality, and yet it's only very recently that people have started to figure out how to start using it in non-niche use cases. IoT continues to grow more and more and more, and eco-friendly tech is becoming more and more quite the thing. And so we see all this stuff starting to come together. I think the future kind of looks kind of cool. Maybe not Jetsons yet, but still pretty cool.
I agree. Maybe not Jetsons, but we're getting closer.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest today, Jason Cain. He is a region manager for the South Central region of the United States, for talking with me today about some ideas about the future of digital signage communications in the corporate space. Thanks for talking to me, Jason. Super stimulating stuff. I always find future forecasting very interesting.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good conversation.
Indeed. And again, thank you everybody out there for listening. I remind you, there is a transcript with links to helpful outside sources on the Visix website. For more free stuff, head to resources on Visix.com for guides, videos, and more to help with your visual communications. Please subscribe and share, and contact us for information about our digital signage solutions.